Right then, let's see. Yep, a little bit lumpy. That's what we're gonna fix. Good morning, Scott. So we have to fix, we're gonna do the synchronization on the 900 with the FCR 41s. Why? Because I was so happy with the result, and it certainly made a huge difference on the 39s, which I installed last weekend on the 750. So for that reason, I mean, it's so smooth. It idles down to 900, between 900 and 1000 revs, which for a big Desmo V-twin is a little bit uncommon, especially when we're talking about the carbureted bikes. So for this reason, we're gonna try to synchronize. There's a little bit of a scratch there. We're gonna try to synchronize the 41s on the 900 as well. So let's get started. What we have to do, take off the seat, prop up the tank, and get the airbox out of the way. So here we can see what we have to take away to expose the carbs. Battery has to come off, airbox, and in fact I have to take the ignition barrel off because otherwise you can't get the airbox out. 2 screws for that, and then we'll see if we can hook up the ignition coils because usually what I do, I just take the airbox and move it to that side. The cables might not be long enough for keeping the coils connected. Certainly on the Super Sport you can do that, but the Monster is a little bit different. One difference from when you're using the standard, the original carburetors, the Mikunis, is that you could conceivably stop here if you had the Mikunis. You could undo all these screws to be able to put the synchronization tool in the throats there. Because the synchronization on the Mikunis is done with a screw from hell, which is in between the carburetors, but you can reach it from underneath. Now, I also have to say that you could use a different tool, because there you can see a screw on the intake run. It actually has one each side for easy reach. You could use another synchronization tool, like the old Mercury sticks, or some clocks or something like that. But Mercury sticks, they have been banned in Sweden 15-20 years ago because mercury is poisonous, and it often happened that you crushed one of the glass tubes and had mercury all over your workshop floor, which, depending on the material, but mercury gives off lethal fumes for years, for as long as you got some mercury somewhere. So for instance, if you had a wooden floor with some spaces between the boards and mercury gets in between the boards there, you're in trouble, because the mercury, even a few drops, will give off those fumes, and they are very, very dangerous. So of course you can buy nowadays even digital vacuum meters which actually mimic mercury sticks, but I'm going to use my trusty old vacuum tool which goes into the throats instead. Okay, airbox is out of the way, and battery, and all the ignition barrel and all the gubbins. Actually, the cable for the ignition, for the coils, is long enough, so I can actually avoid unscrewing this bracket where the coils and CDI boxes are on. and just do it like this. I can run it like this. I just have to temporarily hook up the battery there. I will put a rubber mat underneath to protect the battery a little bit, and then we're ready to measure. Battery is hooked up and we're ready to start up and measure. Off screen I've been letting it warm up, because it's very important when you do all these measurements that the engine is warm, like it should be. Okay, here we go. So we're at 5 or just above 5 on the right hand side. And look at that. We're actually basically on the same level there. Yeah, well, that was a result. So actually, these carbs are fully synchronized. There's no problem. And the video could actually stop here. But because this is an instructional video, I'll go through the motions on how you would adjust if the carbs were out of sync. It also shows the quality of the Keihin FCRs. Because I bought these carbs back in 2004 when I was living in Hong Kong, and put them on. I bought them off Chris at California Cycle Works. He, in his turn, ordered them from Sudco and did a little bit of rejetting and stuff like that, which I've since fixed because it was running far too rich before. It runs perfectly well. It pulls very strong. Power wheelies in first and second out of corners, no problem. So nothing to complain about. So these were probably set up already by Sudco in a bench, and they haven't moved since 2004. And I've ridden this bike, I would say, it's difficult to say because the clocks it's not the original clocks, so the kilometers you see there, it's certainly much more than that. I would guess that I've done closer to 100,000 K with this bike than 50,000 K, somewhere in between. I've been to the Isle of Man TT twice with it, for instance, and that's a long trip. So these carbs can't be adjusted for synchronization while the bike is running. Why? Because the screws to adjust the height of the throttle is under this lid. And when I take away the lid, well, if I run the bike, it's going to pull air through here. So the only way to do it, unless you have a bench, of course, is to whip off the cover and then do the adjustment with the screws I'm about to show you. Okay, so here you can see where you would adjust synchronization. You have a locking nut, and then you have the adjustment screw, the little screw there inside. So you loosen the locking nut, obviously, and then you adjust it by going one way or the other with this little screw. It's a little bit of a hit and miss. Put the lid back on, run it again and measure, and if it became worse, then you have to go the other way. And that's the only way to do it. So be prepared to do this procedure maybe 5, 6, 7 times before you get it spot on. Okay, let me show you a common mistake when doing the adjustment. So I've highlighted the importance of using the right tools. The nut here, the lock nut, is 7. You can't tighten the lock nut. That won't work, because when you tighten the lock nut, the screw will move as well. Okay, so you got to use some sort of a spanner. I mean, an adjustable spanner is fine. There's not really that much torque to when you torque it down. So you just do that for safety's sake. Because I did check these carbs a few years ago when I rebuilt them, 2 years ago in fact. I used the drill bit method, and I just measured it with a drill bit. I never adjusted, I never touched these screws. But to mark that, I put a little bit of red nail varnish there to lock the mechanism and the screws as well. And to sort of mark that, yeah, this has been checked. Okay, and a final note, which of the carbs should you adjust? Well, let's say that on the left hand side, like it was on the 750, we had 5, okay? And here we had something else, let's say 3. When you have the lower value, that's the one I would adjust. So I would adjust this one up to the same level as this one. So 5 and 3, I would do this here, okay, and try to get it up to 5. And obviously, conversely, the other way around. So if I had lower value here, I would actually adjust that one to be the same as the higher value, which I measured on the right hand side in that case. Now you notice as well, the Monster doesn't have a fuel tap, so I put in an inline fuel tap, and that is to avoid any accidents from, you know, if the float valves get worn or if you get some detritus in there. It has happened to me that they have been leaking, and then you end up filling the cylinders and perhaps even the engine with fuel, and that's not nice. It happened to me a couple of times. Everything back together again. It works perfectly. So thank you for watching, and see you next time.